should at some point I should get music.
Yes, the music helps. The music helps.
Oh man. So hello everybody. I am literally just hunched over this table here because this is my significant other. This is Dustin. This is his partly his music room or mostly his music room where he has music stuff. He's, doing the band thing and all of that, plays guitar and other things. And so like there's actually just all of this equipment like tucked under this table. And so if you wonder what is this pose that she's doing throughout the night, oh man. Well, I am here once again with my friend Brett Dasovic from Pop Culture Planet.
Planet? What?
Oh
what?
no!
I'm done. I'm out of here. Cancel the
Oh my
stream.
god! I've already
Cancel the stream.
mixed you up with Andy.
This is over. I'm
Hey,
going
that sounds
home.
like a good crossover between the
Yes,
two
it does.
of you. Pop Culture Planet. Keep that in mind. No, I'm sorry. You know what's funny is to our audience watching right now, we had just discussed how I was going to really push your channel more.
Yeah.
I wanted to push your channel more this time, and so I get the word wrong, the name wrong.
I get no respect.
Well, anyway, so this is Brett from Pop Culture Crisis.
Yes, correct.
And let's go ahead and put the link up. I'm going to put the link up because, and it's also, by the way, this time I've put the link in the description beneath us. And I know that that my mods, thank you mods, will be presenting that throughout the night. But I have been on your channel before, been on your show before. It is a lot of fun. And let me just get that link here. So here we go. And you have a co-host who's brilliant and intimidating, I have to say, especially for her age.
we had a guest on today, Willie Mack Show, who was on there, and he's when we went with him to the movies last night, we went to see A Haunting in Venice, and he was like shocked. He's like, because he'd only seen her before on like whatever. When she did the whatever podcast, he's like, I just assume you'd be scarier and more disapproving looking. He was shocked that she was, so warm and inviting.
Yeah,
it's because you're not dealing with her in the situation where she's around a bunch of, what she would dub as degeneracy. So, that her words, I'm sure, not mine. So he was very excited that she was so much nicer than he expected her to be.
That's funny. Well, I get that a bit too, because I mean, I think that generally, like right now, I come across as nice, but I do get really strong sometimes in my delivery when I'm getting, really worked up about some of these topics. And so some people have told me, meeting me in person, that I'm a lot less intimidating, put it that way. Yeah, it has really been a very just placid, peaceful week for me.
Oh,
no
yeah.
Controversies.
Yeah. Look, when you started kicking the hornet's nest, I knew that was going to happen, because there's just certain stories that you don't know why, but they just seem to catch, right? And it is not easy to have a contrary opinion to what most people see in that world, especially when it comes to the type of cases that you cover on a regular basis.
Yes, no, that is true. And I wanted to use this opportunity, and I feel kind of bad. I'm about to kind of do a filibuster. So it's like, I hope people don't get mad at me for just like, oh, I'm going to have this, show with this co-host, and then I'm just going to completely like talk to the audience.
Go for it.
No, but seriously, like I want to explain a few things, because I think that there's some aspects of this that people don't really understand how they developed, at least like on my end. And also, like you were saying, I kicked up a lot of dust, and I'll always love to take credit for doing courageous and or reckless things. But I also want to give credit to House and Habit, who is the person who I think has really been, depending on how people view it, I think ballsy, other people think, some other people think reckless or what have you, but but very courageous. And so I here's the thing, okay? I kind of want to give you the timeline, because I think it'll make more sense. And understand, like, when I talk about this, it's not that I've been getting all kinds of hell from my supporters and comments and all of that, and I'm just here like trying, like, let me help you, let me make you understand, guys. It's not like that. Like, I'm totally comfortable with my position, with where I'm at on the Ashton Kutcher thing and the Masterson stuff and all of that, and very open about the things that I'm still trying to figure out. And so it's not anything like that. But I want to explain how some things came to be this controversy on my end, and then go from there, talk about today's news about Ashton, that he has resigned from the anti-sex trafficking foundation that he founded or was head of or whatever. Okay. So a week ago, Brett, you'll remember we talked about the Masterson thing.
Yep.
And I had said that I was I was leaning toward him being guilty, but hadn't looked into it very much. And that, there were just a lot of people that I really respect who think that he is guilty. And so, anyway, what happened was, though, to really kick this off, is that weekend, like after we talked that Friday night, I guess it was the next day or maybe it was Sunday, one of the accusers, and I'm not going to mention her name on this because I don't want to get into that or drag you into that or whatever, right? I'm just explaining how things went down. But one of Danny Masterson's accusers, she was not found to be a victim in a court of law. Both juries hung on that. But one of his accusers started attacking, I think it was Sunday, started attacking online Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis for writing those, what were supposed to be, intended to be private letters to the judge that were not intended to get Danny Masterson off, but were intended just to give another side of his character, the person that they knew from their experience and so forth, their knowledge, to give the judge that perspective, so that the sentence that was handed down may take that into consideration. And it didn't end up mattering, right? Because Danny Masterson got the maximum sentence.
Yeah.
But what happened was one of his accusers really went after Ashton Kutcher on Sunday, I believe, and was threatening to expose skeletons from Ashton Kutcher's closet, and was drawing attention to one of the most controversial things that's happened in Ashton Kutcher's life. And all of that. And it really just kind of made my brain explode. And I mean that in the sense that there are certain things, and I don't even want to use the T word because I hate it so much, but there are certain things that for me, like for everyone, are real, are real hot spots or pressure points or what have you. And I had felt, and I understand that others disagree, but I really had felt that what Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis did was an honorable thing. And so to see her behaving that way, attacking him so unnecessarily, he wasn't even arguing with the verdict in those letters. And it really just would have been, if she hadn't stoked it, if this accuser had not amped things up, it really would have just been a story of like maybe that day or a day or two. But she went after him, and then that got all of this stuff whipped up. So this is what happened. Is Sunday I see this, and then at the same time I see House and Habit posting, 1.2 million followers. I wish I could say a good friend of mine. I don't know her really super well or whatever, but I've come to really respect her through this and other things. But I see her post that or basically tease or preview the fact that House and Habit said she was planning to post insights and information and opinions from some Hollywood people close to this who knew Danny Masterson and knew the accusers and felt like this whole thing, that he was innocent, that this was a kind of a hoax. And so House and Habit, and by the way, when we say anonymous sources, because a lot of people were saying, oh, well, they're anonymous sources, so they could be anyone. House and Habit, Jessica Krause, she actually does verify who these people are. I know from other instances where I knew one of her sources. She does verify who these people are. They're known to her. It's just that she doesn't make that information public. And we could debate whether that's good or bad or how much weight people should give that, but it's another perspective. So anyway, so that comes out at the same time. And then there's this kind of war of words that erupts between the same Danny Masterson accuser and House and Habit. And so people can look at my videos to know my opinions and everything, but I really felt like House and Habit was not doing something wrong. I was and am undecided on the Danny Masterson thing, and I'm still looking into it, and I have been looking into it, and I also knew that I just really hated the way that this accuser was going after Ashton Kutcher, and I felt like there was a kind of a pattern of like volatile, questionable behavior. And so anyway, the point is, That's when I really started making videos and standing up online for these perspectives. And I didn't even realize that my friends at Popcorn Planet, not your show, now we're talking about
Yes,
Popcorn
the other channel that starts with a P. Yes.
But I love those two. I love Andy. I love Steph. Let me just tell all of you as an aside here. I almost made in my short 2.5-year career as a YouTuber and social media person, I have almost made 2 gigantic mistakes, or I made one pretty gigantic mistake and then I almost made another one. And I just want to say that Andy Signore of Popcorn Planet, he basically saved me from those big fuck ups on 2 different occasions. I don't want to say, I don't want to, no, it's not anything like top secret, but let me put it this way. It was in one situation, I was going to go on Andy's show and I had promised a treasure trove. Well, people know what this is the Esme Bianco Marilyn Manson thing. Long story short, they're basically all of Esme Bianco, Marilyn Manson accuser, all of her evidence leaked on the internet at one point, and I and a few other people, we got our hands on it, and we still have it. And I was going to go on. I told Andy that I was going to go on his show and I was going to share all of this, and it was going to be a huge thing for his show. And he really hyped it because it was going to be a big deal. And then what happened is right before, like literally right before the show, I realized that it was maybe not going to be the best thing legally, not for me, but for the larger situation. And so basically I retracted it and made him look stupid. And he could have not handled that well, but instead he handled it really well. And we went on the air and we talked about it and kind of covered over things and made it didn't look like the stinking pile of shit that it was. And the other thing is I got mad at somebody, about a month and a half ago, somebody famous. I got mad at them, and not Manson or anything like that, but it was somebody else. I got mad and I posted on Twitter, I posted this long rant at this person that in hindsight was a really bad idea. And Andy, for some reason, he saw it immediately, like before almost anyone else did. And he DM'd me and he said, are you sure you want to do this? So my point is, I really love those two. And I didn't even realize, not that it would have necessarily changed anything of what I was saying, but I didn't even realize when I was making my videos that what was happening is we were kind of lining up on different sides of this Ashton Kutcher thing and the Danny Masterson thing, sort of. And so like we just kind of start going in our directions. And I think people thought that like we were sniping at each other. And it's not that he didn't criticize me at times, or I didn't criticize implicitly and criticize, I guess, some of the things they were doing, I thought, online. But like, it's just, people need to understand. It's like 2 politicians. I hate to compare myself to a politician, but it's like, it's like 2 politicians in a debate. Like, we can believe passionately about what we're saying, and we are also, we're trying to kind of be dramatic, or at least I am, because if I just sat down and I'm like, we really shouldn't be doing this stuff to Ashton Kutcher. Like, I just don't think it's as effective, right? And so we get passionate about it, and then people think, oh my God, they're beating up on each other. So that's not the case. And so anyway, that's sort of the long story short. And if you are, or long, but if you have any questions or whatever, I mean, let me know.
Do you think this is one of those things where like if, because you said that he messaged you and kind of caught you and he said to you, like, maybe you should, he didn't say you shouldn't do this, but he said, are you sure you want to do this? Is there a difference between him doing that with that situation? And I'm sure that you've had your fair share of concern trolling going on this week with people who are saying, because I think I saw you post about it, right? You said basically people are like, is this the hill you want to die on, right? Is this the hill you want to die on, when everybody else has made their mind up that he's guilty? And I'm in the same camp as you. Well, anywhere between undecided and I don't trust anyone in Hollywood, so guilt wouldn't shock me at all. That's where I fall on the issue. And when we get into these situations, I have a hard time with these. Personally, I have a hard time with these topics because it always comes down to like, what do you really know about any of it? Like, how much do you really know? At the end of the day, I can have strong opinions on actions that are done to the public, right? But when it comes to this stuff that happens behind closed doors, I have a harder time getting involved with it. But I'm sure you've had your fair share of people that have tried to do their own version of what you said Andy had done in about the thing you were talking about a month and a half ago, and people coming to you and saying, do you want to do this? It's going to hurt you. Did at any point did you waver in wanting to go forward with this?
Oh, I mean, I'm always I'm always trying to reevaluate as I go along what I'm doing, because I recognize that and then also I know that your show Pop Culture Crisis, it's a little bit lighter and you kind of laugh a lot more and stuff, but also we have this line, I feel like as YouTubers, that it's very hard to walk, where on the one hand, people watching us, people being entertained by us is dependent on us being very dramatic and making dramatic pronouncements, that are catchy and all that. But then at the same time, at times we're talking about very delicate things, even some of this pop culture crap, right? Like, it's real people's lives. And then when we're talking about like allegations, like Me Too allegations, I mean, that's really serious stuff. And so I think that of course I crossed the line at times. And there have been times when I have said to myself after I did something or whatever, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And at times I will rectify it. And so I'll tell you one thing that I did. One of the points that Andy brought up is that even though I don't believe this particular accuser's allegations, and even though and she was not believed by two juries in the sense that it was hung, they couldn't decide, I should not be referring to her as a faux victim. And I think that is legitimate. I've not decided that Andy that is that a Freudian slip? Oh,
there's all sorts of of transposed names tonight.
Oh my god, my brain is falling apart.
Popcorn Kurtz.
Oh man, this is like, it's terrible Freudian slips. No, but seriously, I haven't decided that Danny Masterson is guilty, and I am not absolutely sure that this woman is lying. And so I shouldn't be using that term, even though the way
I think even when I saw it, I saw faux victim, and I was like, like the language of it to me kind of struck me as a little bit, a little too much. Like, it went a little too far. Like, that just like, but again, I'm also like, I'm the opposite of you. I play it very safe. I posted a video just 40 minutes ago of Rep Lauren Boebert, who was in a compromise. There's an ongoing joke on the show about my lifelong crush on this on Rep Lauren Boebert.
Actually, one second, because I want to just let you go, right? I keep seeing the Shane comment, so we got to get this super chat, because I think he's a fan of yours. He says, Shane Wilder, $5. Brett, King of the Crisis Actors, great show today, even with all the technical issues. Oh, you had technical issues. Thanks for getting me through an ish of a day, shitty day. I don't know. New memes soon. All right, cool. Thank you for that. Now, I'm sorry to interrupt. You go ahead.
Shane is one of our meme lords. Shane posts all sorts of amazing memes in the Pop Culture Crisis part of the Discord, on Instagram, and on Twitter. So thank you, Shane. But like, the thing is the ongoing joke is that I'm a very big fan of Lauren Boebert of Chicago, or I'm sorry, Colorado. Yes. And there was so all this stuff kept coming out about her at this musical, and there's a video with her and her date getting very handsy with one another. If I had to guess, they had a little bit too much to drink. They were having a good time. We'll get into that later. But the point is I posted and then deleted twice, like sharing it, because I was like, do I want to go there? But then at the end of the day, I had to be like, look, she's a politician. She's a public figure. She's right. If I can make jokes about finding her attractive, I can also make jokes bashing her just a little bit for her behavior, because I think you should poke all politicians on the nose as much as you can digitally. But there's a video of her, and I was like, do I want to post this? And then finally I'm like, a good joke came to my mind. So I'm like, no, I have to go through with it. So I posted it again. I posted and deleted twice. And then on the third one, I'm like, no, I have to do it. So I had to tweet that out, but I had the same thing, right? Like, you wonder sometimes whether you go too far. And I have that, and that happens a lot with me, because I play it very safe most of the time.
Well, and I think that it was funny what you were saying, like, well, I was wavering, but that joke was just too good.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, a lot of the time, when we're saying, or I'll speak for myself, it sounds like you
Yeah.
too. When we're saying things or doing things, like we try to be mindful, but there's
Yeah.
just so much information is coming in and out, and and just don't have time to think about everything. And so anyway, so that's one thing that I think, for me to use that term faux, I should feel like I feel about, well, Amber Heard or Evan Rachel Wood. I should feel extremely confident that I absolutely, know what I'm talking about on that.
Yeah.
So that is definitely fair. Go
I
ahead.
did take issue. I did take issue. Look, the her story about Ashton Kutcher in the phone call 20 years ago or however long ago it was like, because we ended up covering it on Monday.
Mm.
And I was like, if what you're trying to get, do you want to give people some background on that, or are we going to go
Yeah,
into that?
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. We can talk about whatever
Yeah,
you want. So our
yeah,
agenda for tonight for everybody is we will talk about the Ashton Kutcher,
yeah,
Masterson stuff, whatever, for a while, and then we've got to talk about, of course, Amber Heard and
yeah,
Elon Musk's book, and then Celtic Iron is going to come on a little later
yeah.
for some mayhem. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, I'm sorry. What did you want me to talk about,
So
Ashton
like,
Kutcher?
do you want to give people like, one of the things that I struggle with on the show is sometimes I go forward without realizing that we need to
I understand you.
that we need
Okay.
to reevaluate so people know exactly what we're talking about. So when she talked about Ashton, she mentioned this phone call he had with Danny Masterson 20 years ago about what they were talking about, supposedly the murder that happened.
Mm,
Remember, right? And she
yeah.
said, and so she's acting like she's got all this dirt on him, and all I think about when I take that, I'm like, my most charitable interpretation of that is, you knew that this happened 20 years ago and you just never said anything. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and to be clear, nobody's saying, that was accusing Ashton Kutcher of committing it, right? It was
no,
basically, or
she's
but
saying that she was on the phone with him when they were discussing it,
right.
acting as if there's a ton of dirt there.
Right, I know, right, and so and really, actually, if people didn't know the subject well, it actually, from that woman, the accuser's initial, Instagram post, it actually, you could assume that she was insinuating that he killed. I know that's not
Exactly.
what she was saying, but it sounded like that, and that's one of the things that House and Habit was responding to as well, was the fact that I think initially when House and Habit read that, she had the same feeling that, and that, okay, she's saying that that Kutcher killed someone, and
That's
again,
how
like,
me and Mary interpreted it. That,
me
like, how,
too.
like, I had no problem interpreting it that way. And being that vague on purpose is intellectually dishonest at
It
best.
is. No, you're right. It is. So, it doesn't matter what she was intending. She was clearly
Yeah.
trying to take the shadiest moment of his life and something that is associated with murder, and was, through her language, her vague language, was trying to tie that together. So to me, that is just despicable behavior. But you're saying you reported on it, and what?
And I was just like, so the point is like, look, that's that type of stuff was with that, when that language comes out there, I take a little bit of issue with that, but I don't know what she's looking to get from that type of discussion. But she was looking to shut you down. She was looking to shut House and Habit down. I saw Shane Cashman and Pete Parada were both shocked when House and Habit's page got taken down on, what was that, on Tuesday or Wednesday, when her page got taken down, right? Like,
Okay, I think.
and Jessica, or House and Habit, is a very popular. I don't think she would call herself a citizen journalist. Would she call herself a citizen journalist, or how does she describe herself?
I don't really know. Like,
Yeah.
I have that same issue myself, because there's not really, I don't feel like there's really a term
No.
exactly for
I mean, entertainment gossip blogger has been a job as long as society as long as newspapers have existed. Page Six has been a thing for ages, and to think that you can just shut someone down because they take a position opposite to yours, and then fall into the language of how you're doing damage to society by asking hard questions, and I actually do mean hard questions, because in a lot of contexts, a lot of people aren't willing to go there. Like, she's one of
no.
the few people, you are one of the few people that are willing to go there, and are still willing to kind of give your audience and the people watching the benefit of the doubt that, look, I'm not saying that this dude is innocent. I'm saying that there's more to this than just the the butterfly and rainbow narrative that they give you, that the guy did all this stuff and he's guilty and got 30 years in jail, throw him in prison, lock away the key, throw him in prison, lock him up, throw away the key, blah, blah, blah. You're saying that, look, there's other questions that can be asked here. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Even as somebody who does believe, or at least if had to put money on it, would say that he's guilty. I'm just saying that you have to be willing to have the discussions.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, absolutely. I agree. 1 second. Sorry.
Yep. Looks like it's just me, guys.
No, I'm back. Somebody was just my guy was just bringing me something to Topo Chico for a little refresher. My assistant, as he says. So, can I add one thing to what you said, because I think it was very well said and dead on. I think that one of the things that really made some people upset with House and Habit, and then also with me, amplifying what she was putting out there, is that if a person believes that this particular Danny Masterson accuser actually was telling the truth, and that Danny Masterson did assault her and all of that, and also if you believe that she has been through all of this persecution by Scientology in the wake of that, which actually that latter part might be true, I don't know. And well, the whole thing might be true, right? But it's possible that you could even have one thing true and the other not. If you believe that, then I understand. If people believe that and are sure of that, I understand why there's so much sympathy for her, and why it would seem like a really ugly persecution that we're engaging in, House and Habit and I, by giving voice to what some of these sources are telling Jessica. And this is basically my answer to that, or this is how I think about it. It could be wrong, I don't know, but we are in a situation with all of this Me Too stuff, and with media and the justice system, all of these entities being what they are, we are in a deeply problematic and deeply imperfect situation. It's really, I guess what I'm saying is there are no good options in a way, because let's say that we were to say, okay, well, because this has been adjudicated in court and he's been found guilty, although he wasn't found guilty of what that particular woman accused him of, but because he's been found guilty of being a rapist, and also because we don't want to take the risk of re-traumatizing anyone who's been assaulted, we're not going to give voice to or allow people to give an alternative perspective. And that, to me, the problem with that is that, that saves potential victims from some pain, but also what does that do for people who have been falsely accused or even falsely imprisoned? How do we really honestly, sincerely adjudicate guilt or innocence, or get a better sense of these things, if we only let one side have a voice, really?
At the end of the day, it has to come down to our responsibility as individuals, meaning like nobody can be responsible for how you take the world in, right? You have to be willing to accept that you're going to read things that upset you. You're going to hear things that upset you, and you can't really get away from that. One of the things that I thought was interesting that somebody pointed out to me was that, look, at the end of the day, nobody really has a problem with going and how many people go through and watch true crime, right? Does that not re-traumatize all of the people who have been victims of a serial killer, or
sure, like Dahmer, the outrage over that,
all of those things? And there were victims, there were family members of victims that came forward and said, look, this is exploitative, but nobody seemed to care about that. Everybody's like, well, the entertainment's too good. I guess then they're victims that we're going to just sacrifice at the altar of pop culture entertainment because we decide that this topic is off limits. And it is an interesting thing, and me and Mary talk about this all the time. It is a fascinating concept in Western society that in a lot of ways, victims of assault, of sexual assault, are like, that is considered in a lot of ways more abhorrent, more unforgivable, and you're less likely to ever be considered rehabilitated from that than somebody who has committed murder. So people who have killed someone are a lot more likely to get the benefit of the doubt about being rehabilitated. Now, not often, but I'm just saying that we seem okay with kind of intellectualizing and having our back and forth discussions about people who have been horrifically killed. But when it comes to sexual assault, that one, and I do like, I don't like going like these topics aren't good for me. I'm not a huge fan of it. So it's like, I get where that comes from. It's a protective instinct in a lot of ways for much of us. And it's weird though how we are okay with that when it comes to violent crime in which somebody has died, but in these cases, because you have a living victim. But I've also heard the stories about, look, people who have reported these crimes, right? The ones who go to the cops, and somebody gets convicted, and then they have to go and retestify. Right? Both people who have been witness to violent crimes and people who have been assaulted then have to go to retestify later. That in a lot of ways, that re-traumatizes them every time all over again. And that's scary and terrifying.
It is really sad, and I'm not at all being lighthearted here or anything to say that it is really sad that there just isn't a good way to adjudicate crimes like rape or sexual assault, in the absence of physical evidence. And I know, and I don't want to get into right here whether, what evidence there is in the Masterson case and all that. We're about to move on to Amber Heard. But I'm just saying though, like, it feels like in our fucked up world, it feels like everybody has to hurt, even the innocent. And I do understand that if someone were a victim of someone else, why it would upset them to see someone with 1.2 million followers and then someone else with, whatever I've got in comparison. But to see us out there giving voice to this idea that she's lying and so forth, or worse. And I understand that. I would just say though that we just don't have good options in this. And I understand that a number of people have looked into the Masterson case and they feel like they have settled it to their satisfaction that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But I have been looking into it now for a week and spending more than a few hours on it. And I just don't feel like, I hope next week I'll be able to say really what I think, but I'm not to the reasonable doubt, beyond the reasonable doubt point anywhere near that. And so I am trying, and I'll continue to try, but I just don't think, Brett, and then I'll turn it over to you if you want to say anything else to end us here. But I just don't think that I can just ignore this and put it away and say, well, the second jury decided it on these 2 counts, and so he's guilty, it's done. Like, I just feel like I feel like it's okay to question it.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention, whatever you feel about his guilt or innocence, there's going to be an appeal, and more stuff will end up happening there. And a lot of people believe that it's going to continue on. And I don't know how much this was. The news cycle is so fast these days. The news cycle is so damn fast these days that I don't know how long something like this stays in the news cycle, especially when most of the public has, made their minds up about what's going on here. I think the sad truth is that everybody that's mad at you will then like a lot of the people, like you had people you said that were mad at you, people that said like, look, this is my breaking point. I can't, I was with you on Manson. I was with you on Till. I was with you on this stuff, but this is like, I can't get behind you on this one. But the thing is with most people, like, they're going to people forget. They'll forget in 2 weeks that this is in the news, right? Because once the media stops reporting on it, it becomes it's like poof, it's gone.
Yeah, it really is. And so and there's something, like, in a way reassuring but also frightening about that. And I want to say one more thing. And I've said this before, but I am really in a bind in the sense that my channel, its main focus, and I didn't really foresee this or want it, but its main focus has become either cases of false Me Too allegations or Me Too or SA allegations, and
that is a
getting
dangerous
into them, investigating. I know.
Like, I would never want to be you. I would never want like luckily I'm quite a few years sober now, but there isn't enough Xanax in the world for me to be able to do a channel based I mean, on one hand, like, call me basic, but I like to laugh. When we talk about this, so like when we're doing the show, right, we have to find this balance. Like a big part of it for us is like finding a balance. Like there'll be days where like we're talking about what we're discussing, and we'll get through, because what we do is when we do pre-production, we're going through all the news of the day. We move stories around from day to day based on who's like, are we going to be? Is it going to be just me and Mary? Is there going to be a guest? Sometimes we'll move a story to this day because this guest might have more to say on it, right? And there are days when you think you got the perfect show figured out, and then you realize by like topic 3, because we do 4 main topics every day and about 5 shorter topics, right?
Yeah, you do a lot. Yeah.
Like there's a time sometimes I'm just like, I can't, like, we gotta put something funny in here. Like I can't do 3 depressing ass stories.
Yeah.
Like I can't do 3 or 4 sad stories. And the sad that fact is, Hollywood is a place full of sad stories. It is. It's a depressing place. Like once you like, as much as I hate the positive propaganda that comes out of Hollywood, the depressing stuff is just as bad. So what you have to do every day, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's interesting to me, and I do feel like this is a kind of at least for the time being, it's a kind of a calling, and also I am committed to trying to branch out, and that's one of the things that I want to start doing more. But I will say this, I think that over time, my audience, they stick with me because they know that I'm going to see a story through, and I am going to eventually come to a correct conclusion. And so, like what happened with the Manson thing is that, and some people want to dispute this, they think I was just always on the Marilyn Manson innocence train, but actually, like, I did, when I initially heard the allegations against him, I initially just right off the bat thought, well, he's probably guilty. And then as I looked into it, and as interviews came out and stuff, I saw some giant red flags, and so I got to a 50-50 point. And then as I really looked into it, then of course it became very obvious to me. But some of these cases are more complicated than others, and so I just want to say, in the Danny Masterson situation, I really don't know what I believe, and I am in a process of looking into it. And I really feel like when I get to the end of this process of looking into it, that I'll be able to make a video, and hopefully people believe me, and I'll say, well, this is what I think, or at least we'll know I'm being sincere.
And one of the big things that you mentioned is like, look, you can't, at the end of the day, like there's a fine line between you want to cover stuff that's interesting, and when you're doing this for a living, when you're doing it for an audience, you do have to take into account, like, look, do people want, like, at least for us, right? It's like, is this what people want to hear about? One of the things that I actually find, like, very little, you can insult me all you want, like you're short, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. But for some reason, when people get mad about like what I choose to talk about, that's like the one thing that sets me off. It's like, I'm going to cover what I'm going to cover. If you don't like it, go watch somebody else. That's fine. Like, I'm not saying that you're bad for not wanting us, or for not finding this interesting. I'm just saying that, like, look, I got the things that I want to cover, and there's a lot more that goes into doing this than simply choosing things that are inherently interesting, because there's so many other things that go into it. So you have to weigh all those together and decide, what am I passionate enough about? Like you said, it's a calling for you. Like, I don't have as much of at least for me personally, it's not so much a calling on each individual piece of subject matter, but it's, in a way, I find the idea of putting together something good every day. Like, the thing I always reference to people is, like, the biggest compliment you can give me is if you say, like, look, I listen to you while I'm at work and it helps me get through the day. That's the biggest compliment you can give someone like me, because that's what I loved about podcasts and what I loved about YouTube before I did this. Like, every job I had before this, I watched hours of it every day because it was how I got through the workday. So there's almost something inherently romantic about that, about being able to do the same for other people the way you do, that you felt that other people have done it for you. But when it's talking about such serious subject matter, you can't acquiesce just because people say, look, I don't think you should be covering this, because it means something to you. But then you have to understand that audiences can be fickle at times. So the ones that stick with you, the ones that understand that you're not being intellectually dishonest, you're not just in this to find somebody innocent or guilty and then lock them up, throw the key, move on with your day. You've got a process you go through for that. you have to hold on to that because that type of audience is hard to come by in a lot of respects. So if you have that, it's a good thing, but it's always difficult when you have to take in what the audience wants to see as a part of the equation.
Sure, sure. It's like, and I know you feel the same way. It's kind of like having many masters, and I don't mean that
Yeah.
in a bad sense necessarily. It's pros and cons. And the thing about my audience too is that I really do think it's a great audience, and I think that in particular, one of the things that's great about it is they're very passionate because most of them passionate about what they believe in because most of them have come to me through the Johnny Depp case
Yeah.
or the Marilyn Manson case or lately the Rammstein case. And so I know that, that a number of them think that Danny Masterson is definitely guilty and that this kind of criticism of the accusers is beating up on already victimized women and everything. And I respect those feelings. And that's why you don't see me. I mean, I'm not making jokes or anything. I'm trying not to, there's no levity for me with this situation.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that does not mean that I've got it out for people who have a different opinion. Like, let me just tell you all, if I have never met Andy Signore of Popcorn Planet or Steph, if and when one day we meet, or if we were to meet, say tomorrow, like this topic, the Masterson thing, that would occupy probably like a minute or two of our conversation. Like
Yeah.
it's not intense like it seems to be. I think some people think it is.
Yeah. By the way, I see a super chat there from
Yes.
Derp Caprio, my friend. I see you, buddy.
Says, thanks for keeping my boy occupied. He be wildin' without supervision. Not at all. He's great.
Hey, dude. Like, look, I don't require supervision. Okay, that's not very nice. It's
Is that
very
Mary's
rude.
job on your show?
Look, she's the itty bitty child. I'm the adult. I'm the old one. I'm the supervisor in that partnership. So no, I do not require supervision. I'm a full grown adult. Though I did have somebody yesterday. We were when we were going to the movie. Like basically said like what are you, like 24, 25? I'm like, yes, perfect. Like that's exactly how old I am. I'm 20. I'm 25.
Well, you're like me. You don't look your age. I wouldn't.
Exactly.
I mean, can you tell me your age? Are you a lot older?
I'm 37.
Oh, well, you're still. Hey, you know what? You are young enough that I would be grooming you if I were to flirt with you right now.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, when I said when I was saying hey, Lauren Boebert, like my DMs are open. You can message me. I think she would be grooming me as well if that was to happen.
I didn't know these Republican women had such spicy sex lives. We'll talk about it in a second. Everybody, this is Mary Morgans. This is this is his co-host on this. Hey, this is a good time for us to plug Pop Culture Crisis.
Not Planet. Not Planet.
Yes, so it's on YouTube. It's called, I'll put it here right now. It's called Pop Culture Crisis. And so Mary Morgan, this attractive blonde, I don't know who this brunette is here, but you see the blonde.
Yeah, it's
the one with the crazy eyes, the Village of the Damned eyes.
Yeah.
She's his co-host, and she's like a prodigy. She's super, super smart for any age, particularly her age. But that's who we're talking about. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Republican ladies in a minute, but there's one thing that we really need to hit on. Well, two things. We're going to talk about the Rammstein thing a little bit later. I just want to tell you a few things, ask you something, but I want to talk about Amber Heard and Elon Musk. So, have you heard about some of the quotes about Amber in Elon's new book?
From his family?
Yeah, from his brothers.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, so Kimball Musk, brother of Elon Musk, is quoted on the record in the new Walter Isaacson book about Elon. He's the one who wrote that really famous bio of Steve Jobs that everybody loves, right?
Yeah.
But Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, quoted as saying, well, all of these terrible things about her, but called her toxic and an absolute nightmare.
Like the Joker, they said. Like the Joker.
Like the Joker. I mean, I guess that's supposed to mean like unhinged and diabolical. I don't know. Chaos.
She's like a dog chasing Teslas. If you've seen The Dark Knight.
Yes, I have. Really good movie. Better than a lot of the superhero movies today. But yeah, so So this is the thing. Is this just kind of the final nail in her coffin of public perception?
No, it's
No?
not. I'll tell you
Tell
why.
me.
Because the Overwatch picture came out. The picture of her as Mercy.
Yes.
And all is forgiven. Everyone's like, I get it. Like sometimes you just have to admit, guys like Musk, they like
Uh-huh.
crazy.
Uh-huh.
They like crazy. They
Uh-huh.
like a little bit nutty. They like chaos. And she
Uh-huh.
was exactly that. There's nothing typical
Wait,
about.
so you're saying this photo that she's so I'll make it a little bigger, but you're saying the fact that she's so hot in
All is
this.
forgiven. It's fine. It's
Oh, shit.
I'm being sarcastic. But the point is like people were already making the jokes. And here we go again with the fact that, like, look, when it comes down to it, we can all be upset about the injustice that was done to Johnny Depp, but at the end of the day, the internet's gonna internet, and they're not going to be very forgiving. They're gonna be like, look, I'd let her. It's fine. I'd let her do that to me too if she looked like that. It's fine. And a lot of guys, especially wealthy guys, who he's got a bug about him. You're gonna put up with a lot for an adventurous and beautiful woman, even if she's a little bit nuts.
Evident a little though, a
A little
little.
bit.
You
Hey,
know,
I'm being diplomatic here. I'm being diplomatic.
well, evidently, even Elon has a breaking point because he did break up with her. I don't know if this is detailed in the book, but this is something that's otherwise known and we've known for a bit. He did break up with her, and wasn't there something, people in the chat can help me out with this? Wasn't there something that came out in court or in one of the depositions, something on the record about the idea that Elon had been surveilling Amber Heard when she was on
Oh,
location in Australia and saw her doing something on camera that she wasn't. Somebody in the chat, I know I'm just here talking out of my ass, but tell me, what am I talking about? You in the chat, we've got some people who are on this, right? And what
okay.
I'm talking about. But evidently, anyway, he broke up with her. And what I think is interesting um, about this is that normally, when people break up, I feel like, especially if you're talking to your biographer or whatever, if this person is still alive, if your ex is still alive, you want to say something kind of generous, or even, the siblings might want to say something kind of generous or whatever. Well, they had their ups and downs or what have you. But like Elon Musk, he went on the record and said that it was brutal, that the
Yeah.
relationship with Amber Heard was brutal, on top of what Kimball was saying. It was a nightmare, it was toxic and everything. So to me, this indicates that this woman she's Amber Heard. She's what we thought she was, right?
It's funny too because I mean Musk is not one to pull punches on stuff like this. He's going to have his opinions on all of these topics, and it's good to sell books. At the end of the day, it all comes back to biographies, right? Like one of the things that I criticize on a regular basis is like a lot of the things that come out from like the men and women in Hollywood when something bad happens. It
Yeah.
always seems to coincide right around the time they've got a book coming out. So press X to doubt on all of that stuff. Now, look, we may be more predisposed than normal to believe this of Amber Heard, but anybody who's selling me a book, anybody who's selling me a product, I'm going to be a little bit hesitant to buy what you're saying whole hog. Now, she's very clearly someone that's got more than a few strikes against her, but at the end of the day, they're selling a book, and they gotta make it big. They gotta make it big so that people want to go out and buy them.
No, that's true. That is definitely true. So people in the chat were telling me that they're not sure what I'm talking about. So maybe I made that up in my head. Something about
That one's not ringing a bell with me. Though I completely buy him having the resources to go and surveil her.
Oh my gosh. Well, so that was one thing in the news, and I know that there's been some controversy too about Aquaman. We're gonna have Celtic on. He's my friend. He's in the waiting room, so we'll have him on in a little while to talk about that. So hold on the Aquaman thing. But I wanted to ask you. So I saw something, speaking of Republican ladies in the news. So I saw something today, headline on the Daily Mail, that North Dakota, or is it South Dakota, Governor Kristi Noem
South Dakota. I think it's South Dakota, yeah.
had been having a long-standing affair with former Trump aide Corey Lewandowski.
I love it. It's my favorite. I love it. You know why? Because this is the most egalitarian thing in the world. Look, degeneracy is not just a male politician trait. It's not just a female politician trait, it's a politician trait. And the idea that, look, back in the day, it was the case du jour for the male politicians to be the ones out having an affair. Now we got the female politicians. They got to go out and have their affairs too. I'm all for it. Go ahead and do it. I don't care what you do in your free time.
No, I mean, definitely. If they want to shag or whatever, great.
Granted, look. If you're like, one of the things that they have working against them is like, if you're pushing the family values stuff, and you're not like, there's a lot of hypocrisy there, right? But I do like Kristi Noem. I do like it. She's a grandma. She's a very attractive grandma. So is Lauren Boebert. They're both attractive young. They're young for being. I think she's in her 50s, if I remember correctly, and Lauren Boebert's in her late 40s. But look, that type of behavior. You watch any politician. That's why you should never hitch yourself to any politician. I don't care who it is, because they will disappoint you in the end. But if you don't take it too seriously and you just find it silly and ridiculous, it's a lot more fun to look at this stuff and be like, that's hilarious. It's hilarious.
It is, like you said, it is particularly enjoyable, or I should say, what's the German word, the Schadenfreude, when they are people who have been pushing family values agenda.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, again, I'm not trying to get into the political stuff or what have you, and I tell people all the time I'm right of center, but like it's just funny. And apparently this has been known for a while, because I talked to one of my sources in the political world who's kind of in the know about stuff, a couple of them, and they said it was the worst. It was, quote, the worst kept secret in Washington that these two were having an affair.
That's you got to expect it, right? Like we talk a lot about how things, no matter how much things change, they stay the same. It's all the same, right? These things went on in Bill Clinton. One of my favorite memes that every time it gets posted, I repost it. It's a picture of Bill Clinton at the desk in the Oval Office, sitting like this, and the photo's taken dead on. It says, "Only people of a certain age will know that there's two people in this photo." Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
right?
I want to find that notes, but go ahead.
The point is that this type of behavior is not new, and it's if anything, it's going to become even funnier in the internet age. Back then, you had to wait for the tabloids and the news, and now it's all too common. And now you have the video of of Lauren Boebert, basically with this guy she went to the play with, basically feeling her up at the play. And I'm just like, dude, nothing changes.
Okay,
right?
So let's talk for a second, because all I know about Lauren Boebert, in terms of what's happened recently, is that she gave someone the finger when she was walking out of a playhouse. Or you tell me.
So she got kicked out of Beetlejuice the musical for vaping at the play and taking selfies during the show. She was misbehaving. Okay, she was not acting within the bounds of the rules that these opera houses or these places have.
Right.
The theater has strict rules about what you can do while you're there. She got kicked out, and then more and more stuff kept coming out, and everybody was making a meme of it because of how she was dressed, because she was dressed very very nice. She looked she looked lovely. And people were making a big deal about it because she's recently separated. She's getting divorced.
Yeah, she's had really kind of dramatic marital problems, right?
And here's the question I actually asked on the show. I said, what does a female politician do if she is taking her husband's last name, gets elected? Does she keep that last name if she gets divorced?
I guess for name recognition generally, right? There she is giving the finger to somebody.
She was acting kind of bratty, and apparently when she was leaving, she says, "You can't do this to me. I'm a congresswoman." And I just
no, she didn't bring that out, did she?
So
was she drunk? Was she drunk?
She looked a little tipsy to me in the video. If you can find it on TMZ, there's videos of her at the thing. I don't know how TMZ gets these videos. It's the greatest thing ever. They get all this security footage, but it's just hilarious, right? Men, women, then being acting improper, and then being a bit hypocritical is it's a human trait. It's not unique to either men or women. At the end of the day, even if you're somebody like me who can make all these jokes about finding a politician attractive or liking a politician, they're still a politician, and you should approach all of them with a healthy amount of distrust and ability to laugh at them.
Well, yeah, hell yeah. I think that politicians, they're kind of like one of the few types of people that we can still laugh at.
Well, there was also the lady who was like, she's like a Democrat candidate this week who got caught. She has an account on Chatterbait with her husband and solicited tips.
Okay, wait a minute. Is that like sex stuff? Like what exactly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she
Chatterbox?
had like
I've never heard of that.
So it's basically a porn site where she was uploading content with her husband and using it to fundraise, basically. Like, look at, I don't remember her name. Does anybody, maybe somebody in the chat knows who I'm talking about, but it's just hilarious. So it's like, look, if we're gonna make fun of that lady, I have to also make fun of Lauren Boebert getting to first base with a guy at Beetlejuice the musical.
Man, our politicians never disappoint. We've got the youngins on the one hand, you're, fornicating and giving people the finger and whatever. And then we have the barely alive vegetative state, Mitch McConnell and who are some of the others, Feinstein, maybe Biden.
All of them. Pretty much everyone in the Senate they're so old. They're so old, and it's hilarious. But the Mitch McConnell's one recently was hilarious because it's actually turned the memes that used to be one of my favorites, where I love living, like, you live long enough to see a meme evolve past party lines. So have you ever seen the meme? It was like when your wife asks you to go to the grocery store and says make a list, and you're like, I'll remember me at the grocery store, and it was the Biden meme where it's like now they're making the same meme but with Mitch McConnell. So it's it's bipartisan. Everyone is old and out of touch out there.
I was looking for this meme that I'm sure you've seen that's been going around the last couple of days, and it's the alien, the Mexican alien, and but instead someone has made it Biden. So I guess the idea is ancient.
I like the idea of, like, look, I looked at that thing from a certain angle. It kind of looked like dead Yoda to me.
Okay, so so I was going to ask, what is your opinion? So there's this alien. I'll put it on the screen. There's this, it's not an alien. We don't know what it is. It's probably nothing, I guess.
It's paper mache. It's not real. It's not real.
Is the Mexican government, though, claiming that this is legit? Because they said they did like a DNA test on it, right?
A DNA of what? DNA of what?
That thing.
Do you have the DNA of aliens on file to compare it against?
Well, I guess it's not human.
It's not human. It's so what is it? It's hilarious is what it is. Also, it's what's funny to me is, like, as soon as, like, the government, whether it's the American government or the Mexican government, as soon as the government started telling you that aliens were real, everyone is like, no, they're not real because the government's saying they're real.
Yeah, I know. And I understand that. Look, I think there's something to it. Not this Mexican fossil here, but but I think there's something to what's been going on in our country, our government discussed lately. I think there's something to it, but I totally, like, I can't, I can't have a problem with people saying, come on, you're gonna believe this. Our government now seems to be in some ways endorsing it. Yeah.
Well, when you see stuff, when you see stories like this, there's something you should be asking yourself. What are they trying to distract you from?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever something like this comes out, it's because something is going on with either Biden or, and again, I'm not a partisan. I think all politicians are scum. But right now, in party,
you're fine. Yeah.
In party, the idea is like, look, every time something about aliens comes out, it's because Hunter Biden did something crazy.
You think there's like a one-to-one relationship? We can probably chart it. Like, we need to do a graph of all of the mentions
Yeah.
of the alien stuff and then correlate it because Hunter Biden, he did get in trouble, what, the day before yesterday with the
Well,
gun
he
stuff?
just
What's
got
going on there?
he got no mug shot, by the way. No mug shot. That's too bad. I would have liked it. I'd have liked it and have him put him next to each other, like him and Trump. But yeah, like in before this, the last time the government, like what, all of a month and a half ago, when the U.S. government's like, yes, aliens are real. It was right after they found the cocaine in the White House. I'm just saying the White House sounds like a lot of fun right now.
It does sound like a lot of
25-year-old
fun.
25-year-old Brett would have had a grand
Oh
old
my
time at
gosh,
the White
that's
House.
funny. So, well, I'm sure it probably hasn't been this much fun since Bill Clinton. I think
I
that was
know, right? Well, no, hey, like I am sure that Bush did plenty of crazy shit in the White House. He's just, he's got to keep up his image as a derp. So,
He drank his non-alcoholic beer. That's what he
yes.
no.
And Bill Clinton didn't inhale.
Oh man, like it's funny like to try to talk about or describe 9/11 and like the war on terror and all of that to people. That's another topic for another time, but I guess but to people who have no concept of it because they were born
Too
afterward.
young. It's a really
Yeah.
it's been really interesting to me because like look, I go on and on about like I love one of the things about Hollywood that I find really really funny is I love the neocon propaganda movies and the neocon television of the like I love anything involving the war on terror where America's just like the greatest thing that's ever come out of the world. And I loved it because it came out at a time where I first of all it's because I understand that what I'm looking at is propaganda and it was
Are you
filtered
talking about Zero Dark 30 or what are you talking about? Tell me.
any of the movies,
Just a lot of
whether you're,
patriotic movies.
yeah, like I love it. American Sniper, I love all of
Oh,
them.
gotcha. I
I
gotcha.
love all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that stuff. I love the first 10 seasons of NCIS, which is literally just every season is just neocon pro-war propaganda in the grand scheme of things because it has a lot, it always ties back into Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm.
But it was done in a way, and this is what's really funny about is they actually found more middle ground there because it was filtered through the lens of a overtly liberal Hollywood that had a funding apparatus that still had to try to appeal to middle America. So you ended up getting more nuanced stories at that time because there was liberal storytellers who wanted to give you a nuanced character. So yeah, there was a lot of times in which they made people in Iraq and Afghanistan the villains, but they would try to reach to some type of deeper story there, something that I don't believe they try to do now in a lot of framework because a lot of the stories they're telling now is just like, oh, white guy bad, right? And they're not interested in finding a more interesting story to tell there. But because they were inherently more liberal back then, the storytelling was more interested. And a lot of that stuff is just gone now because all of it back then was filtered through the framework of it's still at the end of the day we're all Americans. So it wasn't left versus right inherently. Certainly there was the people that were partisan and biased and wanted to see their side win, but you were still all Americans at the end of the day. And I miss that, even if in a lot of ways it feels like a lifetime ago. I miss a time period where, like, look, at the end of the day, I can get along and have a discussion with anyone of any political belief, especially if there's someone, if you live here, if you were born here, if you moved here from another country because you believed in the concept of what America stood for. That's something beautiful to me. And I love the idea of being able to share that with someone. And it feels like that's gone now in Hollywood. And that's dangerous because Hollywood is a place that reaches a lot of people through their storytelling. So it's sad to see that go. But all of that, whether we're talking about the Bush years, the Clinton years, it's sad because I felt like as dumb as all the politicians have always been, we as American citizens were still able to say, yeah, but there are dumb leaders.
I think that I have to think about all of that more, but I think that I agree with you to the extent that, or in so much as even with 9/11 and all and the wars and all that craziness. And by the way, my significant other, he served 2 deployments in Iraq, and people think that should automatically mean that I support that war. But like
Yeah.
he got over there and he was well, I shouldn't speak for him, but there was
Yeah.
some disillusionment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But like even with all of that craziness and horrible things, in some ways, I was saying to someone the other day, in some ways that I almost kind of missed that era because it still felt simpler than what we're in now.
It's
Is
the
that just
information sharing.
nostalgia? Is that just nostalgia?
No, it's real because it's because of the internet. In a lot of ways, we are doomed to a more informed worldview now. We're not just fed the same talking points from the same five news networks that were getting their talking points from the political apparatus that hired, if you look at the media right now, I think 70% vote Democrat or are registered Democrats. It might be a slightly different number there, but it was something there, right? The media is heavy partisan in one direction. But back then, you had a pro-war media apparatus, a pro-war government that filtered down through the media that was okay with sharing that narrative, right? They seemed to be fine with it. Now everything is fractured because we have your mainstream media, like your CNNs, your Foxes, your MSNBCs. You have your missing link media, like Vice, or any of these companies that are constantly looking for financial reinvestment from firms that are basically just mainstream media light now because they kind of fall on the same talking points. You have independent media like people on YouTube or people like I work for Timcast who runs his own news site, and you have a lot of people with very different worldviews and everyone's talking at each other and sharing information. But the problem is that we may have been more cohesive back then, but the cohesion that formed us was in a lot of ways a lie of omission in a lot of cases. So it may be sad that what we're looking at now is a more fractured America. But unfortunately, I believe that that's because of the disillusionment with the country. I think the housing market crash and the bank bailout, all of that stuff plays into it in a big way. There's a lot of disillusionment between the generations. The millennials hate the boomers. Gen Z is nihilistic because they don't see a way out of any of this. And unfortunately, all of that is the burden you bear to be able to access all this information and to not have all of the narratives spoon-fed to you by the same four networks.
Yeah, it definitely, I think there is that feeling of fracture. You're exactly right. And we even feel it, and people have talked about this. We even feel that in our entertainment and the fact that it's so, yes, in a way, it's so great not to just be limited to cable TV. But at the same time, as everybody knows, we now feel like we are in a hurricane of stimuli. It's just,
too much. It's too much in a lot of ways. Actually, I think it's worse for entertainment because back then entertainment was more meritocratic because there was only so many slots to fill. And if you didn't pull in viewers, if you didn't make money, you were done. You didn't get to keep your job. Now there's so much content that has to be put out all the time that we're bombarded with garbage all the time because, like, look, it doesn't matter. We just need to get stuff on the books. We just need to put this out. It doesn't matter if it's good or if it's bad. So at the end of the day, the examples I always give is like, look, the good writers are still going to make great stuff. They're still working, but now you have to filter that out through all of the crap that comes out as well.
That is absolutely true. Now, there is something that has been sitting here on the chat, and I wanted to come back to it. So there's breaking news, and tell me, is this right? Because someone is saying it on the chat. Nina Online, thanks for the super chat. FYI, at 10 and 11 Eastern, huge, possibly false, but huge allegations coming out of the UK regarding Russell Brand's sexual assault. He posted a video preemptively. He's fighting back. I'm going to bring my friend Celtic Iron on with this because he might know something about this. So Celtic, hey, what's up? Oh, sorry. Take your time. Yeah. So we can hear you. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah. So Celtic, this is Brett. Brett, this is Celtic.
And hey, Brett, how you going?
And normally we would have like an interesting, like funny intro with Celtic because he is a porn star extraordinaire and all kinds of other things. But have you seen anything, Celtic, about this Russell Brand stuff? What's going on?
I've been following your chat for the last hour, and I haven't seen anything.
So do you see? I'm gonna look, Brett. Do you see?
Yeah,
this?
I'm gonna look. I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to actually take a 5-minute break and come back because I think that'd be a good idea. So, Celtic, you'll be back.
Well, I'm about to go get cheesecake with corn chop.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm going to be here, but I'm going to try to do it from my phone. Okay. So.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Let's just say this in case it doesn't work. Everybody, we're gonna go ahead and advertise you real fast here. Everybody, check out Celtic Iron on all over the place on YouTube, OnlyFans. Yes,
all the places, mostly
Pornhub.
the YouTube. Check out the YouTube. All right, we're coming back. Chronicles of Celtic Iron is coming back, and I also have another channel, Hammer of the Gods, with Celtic Iron. All right, we're getting into the health and fitness game, people. I like this fella. He's got a unique haircut, and I like some of the points he's
He
making.
has great hair and he's very smart and entertaining. I agree with you on that.
It's a great show. I've enjoyed the last hour, so I'll see what happens. But maybe we'll link up in 20. Maybe we won't. Either way, everybody, God bless and take care. To be continued.
All right, awesome. Okay, so somebody asked, is he on Browsers? He is. Yes, he and I've done many shows together, and he's really cool. And I'll put his links below in the comments after this. But anyway, let's take a 5-minute break and come back, and we'll talk about whatever's going on. Okay, Brett, I'm bringing you on. So tell me, is he guilty or not? Yes or no?
He's guilty. We'll just say he's guilty now, just to head it off at the pass. Yeah, Russell Brand denies serious, disturbing criminal allegations and insists all his relationships were always consensual. Ahead of Mystery Channel 4 dispatches investigation set to air today. Not good.
I'm surprised. I went to the Daily Mail and I don't even see it. Is it that breaking? I'm surprised they don't.
No, it's several hours old. I'm gonna text it to you right now.
Well, I'm looking in the news. I mean, yeah, I see some stuff coming up here.
I just texted, like, it's funny too because I mean, like, all kidding aside, but he's a thought leader, so he's one they'd like to take
I love
down.
what he's been doing.
Yeah.
I love what he's been doing, and he is. And I don't, and I you know what I hate saying is I don't agree with him on everything, because that goes without saying. So I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that I love.
I'm
what
just start saying I agree on everything. I'm saying, and I agree with them on everything.
I love what he has been doing and what he's been getting into, and I think that he has a ton of courage in the direction that he's been going. And so look, Russell Brand, it's probably amazing that he hasn't been targeted. If this is false, it could very well be true too, I don't know, but if he's been falsely targeted, it was probably inevitable. It's been a long time coming, because he has been very open about the fact that he's a recovering sex addict. And so and I'm not saying that means that he's an assaulter. I'm saying, though, that like that puts someone, when someone has a lot of sex, a lot of partners and stuff, like, and they're a celebrity, and also if they're like known for their outrageous behavior. I mean, here we go, people. I hate to say it, but the persona matters, and people see him as this sort of saying, really out there things and doing, dramatic, crazy things. And there's a ton of tape that they're going to be able to find of him talking about women and his history of sex addiction and crazy sex and all that. So
yeah,
it's if it's untrue, which, these days I'm highly dubious of anything involving famous men, but if it's untrue, then it's very unfortunate.
Yep.
Very sad. Okay, so Celtic, I don't think we're gonna do. I don't think I want to add the complication of you like out and about and trying to do this chat. So everybody, Celtic was open to showing up tonight, but let's just do it. Let's just do it next Friday. Yeah. Come back on next Friday. We'll be good. All right. Okay. So bye. He's waiting. Bye. Yeah. Okay. I just want to say about him. So he's somebody that I've been making videos with off and on for 2 years. And I got to know him through the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. He was one of my first followers and first fans on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And what caught my attention was that he was one of the few, there aren't a ton of men, or there weren't at that point 2 years ago, there weren't like just a ton of men in the Justice for Johnny Depp movement. And I don't know that I'd ever met online a porn star. Yeah. Like, seriously, someone was asking, can you see him on browsers? Yeah. You can see him everywhere. You can see
I got a message.
Lot more than you want to see.
I got a message from a friend who said, I thought she was kidding when she said he was a porn star. And then I opened up his page and just, whoa.
Yeah. You know what's amazing, Brett, is how much you can get away with on Twitter in terms of nudity and sex. Like, why is it a free for all when it comes to sex? Like,
and it was like that before.
Everywhere.
It was like that before. It was like that before Musk took over. Yeah, it's weird how much they get away with there. I don't know, man. It's.
I mean, I don't want to censor anything or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, I was very surprised the first time, because I'm not a big porn person, wasn't on Twitter looking it up, right? And so the first time that I like stumbled upon it or whatever, I was like, whoa, you can show
Yes, every time I stumble upon it too, I say the same thing. Yes, it's much the same when I'm doing that. As I say, like I whenever we cover something to do with an OnlyFans model, I do my research, ladies and gentlemen. I always make sure the story is 110% accurate before we get into it. But a big part of the difficult thing for Twitter and all of those platforms when it comes to porn or nudity is how it relates to underage content. And that's a very hard one. There was a video that came out recently where somebody who worked at Pornhub was talking about like the amount of underage content that slips through.
Really?
That gets through, right? And it's
Yeah.
just it's a mess. I mean,
Because they don't, they don't
yeah.
have a way to check that, I guess. I mean, or
It's
do they verify? They don't verify the actors in it or
I don't
whatever.
know. Like, I mean, I'm assuming they have to verify now, but it's not an easy thing to do. Like, it's funny because like when we talk about this stuff, I'm very like Mary's she's Catholic, she's conservative. Her viewpoints are very well thought out, and her critiques of the industry or of the people are very, very reasonable from her moral framework. And I'm over here just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, is it destroying society? Like, I don't know. I don't really like, what do I know? Like, I'm very much a live and let live person outside of, unless you're committing a crime or you're like, I can be critical of like what I think it's doing for the culture. But most of the time, like that's, if you're asking my opinion unsolicited, I suppose. But with stuff like this, it's just, it's scary because we want a liberal society where you're allowed to express yourself, and people have their critiques of the sexual revolution, what it's doing to our the gender wars that seem to be raging here in the US right now. It seems to be such a huge topic of discussion. And I end up falling along the lines of like, who do you trust? Like, outside of criminal activity, who do you trust to censor things? Like, if we're talking about Mary wants to bring back decency laws. And I'm like, look, we have the most indecent government in human history. Do I really want the federal government telling me what's decent? I don't know.
I mean, I think the answer to that is no. And you know, and despite the fact that Mary is more conservative than I am in a lot of ways on a lot of things, I understand where she's coming from still in her perspectives. Because, for instance, you know, a lot of people might hear, oh, someone's in favor of decency laws. Come on. But like, think about everybody. And I've talked about this before, but this, having my friend on, it made me think of this. We could debate whether porn is like how healthy or unhealthy. I mean, I don't think anyone really thinks it's healthy, right? But like how, maybe, I don't know, but how unhealthy it is for society, or maybe it's just not a big deal or whatever, right? But the fact that there are a ton of kids now, I guess it's the norm, who their first exposure really to sexuality and this sort of like, you know, during a period where the wiring is getting established, some of this stuff that's in porn, it's just like, I don't know, you know?
It can be very, very damaging for them long term.
Here's my leg.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody was like, "Are you not wearing clothes?" No, I'm wearing shorts. It's
what? Okay, what is it? Why is it that every 6 months during COVID, somebody would be exposed with like without pants on in a Zoom meeting? What was up with that? Was it like, is it some weird like pushback on authority that some like shitty newspaper, some shitty reporter who instead of working at CNN had to work from home is like, you know what? I'm not wearing pants today. Like, what was up with that? Like, no, just no.
Oh man. Oh
no.
man. Somebody was saying prove it. Yeah. Well, no, but the thing is they are short shorts. And so it's like, well, I can prove it, but then they're gonna be short shorts. But I completely derailed our conversation there. I'm sorry.
So yeah, the Russell Brand stuff looks like it could be crazy.
Is it kind of exploding now?
It's, I mean, I saw one story from 10 hours ago, one from 3 hours ago, and one from 10 minutes ago.
Is one of your friends monitoring it? They could give us their early opinion. Do you
no,
have it?
No. I looked up the links myself. I just looked it up myself, and it was.
No, I'm like asking though. Is there someone with insight? Someone who's been looking into this for the past like 20 minutes while we've been talking?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's
maybe
this is
someone
one of
in
those
our
things
chat.
where it's crazy how like somebody like him, when you're at his profile, when you have his public profile, you have to get out in front of it. You have to get out and start controlling the narrative yourself, and start trying to help control your own narrative, because he's going to be in for a rough time. I see Andrina. Andrina.
Oh wait, Andrina, is that one of your peeps?
Yes. Hi, Andrina.
Andrina. Yes, I just want to. This is a good opportunity actually to plug Pop Culture Crisis again. Let me get the link again. Okay, so yes, it's going to be rough for Russell Brand. I don't see any way it's not, and I would be inclined again to disbelieve these, particularly since I believe in the presumption of innocence. But even if he's innocent, I'm sure there's enough really randy stuff in his background.
Randy,
yeah.
Randy stuff.
Randy stuff. And you know what? I hate to make jokes because this actually it could be potentially very tragic or whatever, but it's like, but the thing is, it's almost like gallows humor. Like after a while, just you see this again and again and again. Okay. But anyway, I have your link. So pop culture crisis. And again, don't want to prejudge. It's just that, as I've told my audience before, I do believe in the presumption of innocence, and that is like an initial foundational opinion. So anyway, but here's the link to, putting it up right now, to pop culture crisis. So is anybody alleging, is it actual, you can tell us in the chat, or Brett, is it actual sexual assault, or is it more harassment? Like, is it criminal?
Let's go through it here. So late on Friday, Brand told his followers he had been contacted by a mainstream TV company and newspaper over serious criminal allegations. He took to his YouTube. I mean, we could watch it if you can pull it up on his YouTube channel.
Oh, he went on YouTube. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Nina Online says, thank you for that. She says, Andrew Gold did a video. A show based on 3 hours of research is airing tomorrow. Okay, so it's an extensive. Wow, somebody did a 3-hour hit piece or attack piece or whatever on Russell Brand. Wow. Okay. All right, let me try to find the video. We'll watch some of it then.
Yeah.
I'm going to go away for like 1 second. You entertain people.
I can do that. It says the much anticipated program is set to air at 9 p.m. on Saturday night, with speculation building over who or what will be the center of the investigation. Rumors on Friday suggested that the show will discuss a number of celebrities and was said to be potentially damaging. Well, yeah, of course it's potentially damaging because what you're talking about is someone's life, and if you can't verify those claims, it will obviously be damaging. Sources say that the long-running current affairs documentary series will feature details about a well-known celebrity, which the Mail have been told are shocking. This is giving the same vibes. I mean, obviously they're being a bit generic for the sake of building anticipation for something like this. When they were talking about Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner, and they were like, what was on the Ring camera footage? What could it be? It could be anything. And they want to build you up and get you to anticipate what's coming. It says the letters list. Hold on. So it says the letters listed a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like community festivals should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel, Brand said. So he's kind of addressing the claims here. Should we watch the video?
Yeah. So it doesn't like it's too long. I did find it. So 1 second. Here we go. He titles it, "So This Is Happening."
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. It might be a little loud. I don't know. So I'll turn it down just a bit, but be prepared. Okay, here we go. Make it full screen if I can. I'm not good at the technical maneuvering, I know. Here we go.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies. And as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you. You're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago, there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so go. Yeah, you have some reaction?
Not hard to believe that somebody like him, who is a very big public figure, would have people gunning for him in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just so much as a reporter who doesn't like him latches on to a story and makes something out of it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. There's an air of urgency in his delivery that's always there, but maybe it's just like in my head right now, but it feels very like he's always like that, like in his videos. That's part of his delivery, the way he's talking, but he knows what's coming because he knows that there is nothing more vindictive than a mainstream press that's out to get something. It's out to get someone.
No, I mean, that's true. Nina, so Nina Online, who's been looking, I guess, monitoring this, thank you for the super chat, says Andrew Gold said, this is the person who's producing this, this attack piece. Andrew Gold said that in the UK, before publishing allegations, they have to contact the person to give them a chance to respond.
Yeah.
Brand was contacted today because two things are airing or publishing tomorrow.
Do you remember? It reminds me of when Rebel Wilson was outed as being gay because a reporter in the UK, I believe it was I could be wrong about that. A reporter basically said, like, look, this is a story I'm running. Do you have anything to say? And it was a private piece of information. It is a sleazy thing to do if she doesn't want to be public about her sex life, like, and you're going to just out her like that. I was never a fan of something like that for a piece like that. And they basically, she called it harassment and problematic because they basically said, like, look, we're running this story. Do you have anything to say? Which she felt sounded like a threat.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, someone is definitely boxed into a corner, and they know that a tidal wave of woe is about to come upon them. And I just want to say about the Russell Brand thing is that there are a couple of things in particular that really stood out to me. One of them, and again, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, but my basic foundational starting point is the presumption of innocence. And so when I hear him say things like it's a coordinated attack, that accusers have clearly been talking to each other, this is very much in line. And Russell, if you happen to see this, let me just tell you, I've been looking at these types of coordinated Me Too media infused attacks for a long time. And they are coordinated, and you're not the first who has had this happen to him. And I really feel, again, if it turns out that that's what this is, and I really feel, Brett, like we are as a society on some kind of a runaway train that's not even, it doesn't feel like it's even slowing down. I thought after Depp versus Heard, I thought after that Amber Heard verdict that was going to be perhaps a real sort of inflection point in people's attitudes and in the way that these things are adjudicated in various ways. And I feel like actually it was just maybe a bump in the road. I don't know. Am I too cynical?
Too much money to be made. Too easy of a way to harm the people you don't like. And also, let's be fair. When they're guilty, right, that they're guilty. But
right,
when they're not guilty, it's too easy to harm someone's reputation that you don't like. It's like I wonder if Leonardo DiCaprio just lives in fear of the day of all the women in his life eventually being pissed and coming out because he wouldn't marry any of them, right? Like, it's just we have too much access to the media. Like 20 years ago, it would have run, maybe a story would have run, it would have played out its course, especially if there's no, like, they're not talking about criminal charges, are they? They're just talking about running a newspaper article, about running a story.
Yeah, it's a story, but these things also come in stages, and it's just like with the Rammstein hoax. Not to get us on a different tangent here, but I
No.
mean, I've seen other situations where it starts off as allegations or as media pieces, and I mean, even in the Weinstein case, that was broken by media first. So if it's not true, then I hope for his sake that it doesn't progress to the point
Yeah.
of criminal investigations or what have you. But I don't know. I can't emphasize enough to people, having looked into a number of these, and I'm not talking about the cases, where I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out, or where I'm just kind of 50-50 or whatever. I'm talking about the number of cases that I've seen, like the Depp case, where to me it is very, very clear that it is a hoax. And I've seen so many of these, and it's like they all follow sort of the same trajectory. It's like a disease. Once you know the diagnosis, then you know the prognosis. And I hate to think that Russell Brand, if he's innocent, I hate to think at what he has in front of him, because it's a very unpleasant cycle. It's a very unpleasant sort of unfolding of things that's about to start happening.
And here's the thing, like, at the end of the day, for the third parties involved, meaning the media, it's a weapon. What I would say is, like, look, whether he's guilty or innocent, the partisans in the media that don't like him don't care. They're not in it because the partisans in the
Right.
media that want to shut you up could give a crap less whether you're innocent or guilty. What they see it as is ammunition to use against you. And if that means that they get some justice for someone, I guess so be it. But their motives aren't noble.
No. No. And so Nina Online says, if it's a hoax, at least unlike Manson, Brand is going to fight it. Well, Manson, I understand what you're saying. Like, he's not as public, but Manson filed a very expensive, what's proven to be a very expensive lawsuit against Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore. And, I know that I'm out there all the time saying, I wish more of these guys would get really, really tough publicly and go out and do interviews and whatever. But I don't know. I have to say that after seeing this Masterson thing and how, and the kind of serious penalty that he faced, which may be entirely deserved, but like, I understand that in these situations, it's a very sobering thing to be the subject of an investigation, and so I get the trepidation. Go ahead.
Look, at the end of the day, when it comes to giving interviews, most of them know, and it's something that I wish that they're not your friend. When you give these interviews to these outlets that are out to get you, they're going to edit it deceptively. They're going to make it make you look as awful as possible. They're not there to give you a straight shot, clear picture of what this person's perspective on it is. They're going to cut it up. They're going to post the segments that make you look the worst. They're not your friend. Russell Brand is in a much better position due to the size of his platform and the fact that he can get his opinions out there, his side of the story out there, unfiltered.
Yeah, I was just thinking that good for him. Thank God that if he is innocent, thank God that he has amassed this kind of a following where he can get online and he can speak, and it will be disseminated among millions of people and very influential people. And so maybe, a positive of this, if it turns out that Russell Brand is accused, and I'm seeing some people saying now that this documentary is not going to be just focused on Russell Brand, that it looks at a number of comedians. So I guess there's other people who are going to be in trouble.
Oh, Louis C.K. all over again.
Yeah, possibly. But I, at least with Russell Brand, at least, he can, maybe one benefit of this is it will allow someone finally a forum to adequately defend themselves, because he does have such a platform. And maybe since obviously he's willing to get out there and talk about it, maybe he can expose this, if it's a hoax, as a hoax.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
I don't know.
scary because like at the end of the day, the whether people like the media or not, they wield enormous power when it comes to
Yeah.
people's reputations.
They do. They do.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. Any more thoughts about Russell Brand?
I don't envy him. I don't envy the road he's got. Like, I don't know how, like, I can't imagine that level of stress knowing that this type of stuff is about to break, assuming he's innocent. If he's guilty and he's just a sociopath, then, you
Yeah.
know, then you
Well,
got what's coming to you. But if he's innocent and this is a hit piece, he's in for a very long and painful road that's going to be very, very difficult to navigate.
well, let me just say something about what I have observed in people who suffer from sexual compulsion, because he was just very open right there, saying that he struggles with or used to struggle with sex addiction, and he's been very promiscuous and all that. I mean, it's all very documented. He's written about it, talked about it. But I have known in my life a couple of people, and people always think, "Oh, you're talking about yourself or whatever." No, but I've known a couple of people in my life of different genders who struggled with sex addiction and or compulsion or whatever. I know people say you can't be addicted to sex or whatever. I feel like you can be addicted to anything that
You
feels good. I don't know.
anything that anything no
Here's my leg again,
anything
as
that
this
hits the
awkward moment.
dopamine, anything that hits the dopamine can be addictive.
Yeah.
Anything that makes you feel good can be addictive.
Yeah. So whether or not it fits some clinical definition, but I've known two people who were very compulsive sexually, and one of the things that I observed about the tragic situation that they were in is that in order to regularly fulfill that compulsion, they had to, like all addicts, put themselves in situations that were compromising, or situations with volatile, unstable people at times, or
Yeah.
what have you. Like, I knew a guy who had been basically extorted multiple times for thousands of dollars by women who claimed that they needed to get an abortion. And I don't think that all of those women, as it turns out, were using that money for that. But it
Yeah.
was like, but that was his life. And so I guess what I'm saying about Russell Brand is, if it turns out that he is innocent, is that I'm sure that he exposed himself to a lot of problematic people or disturbed people or sleazy people or whatever through the course of that. Just like if you're a drug addict or whatever, you have to go to some shady
Yeah.
places to get your stuff, right?
Yes, you do. Oh, I wonder if because the same thing would happen. I remember David Duchovny back in the day came out as a sex addict, right? Charlie
Yeah,
Sheen.
yeah.
A lot of these celebrities. Yep.
Yeah, David Duchovny was married, and apparently really loved his wife and wanted to make it work. And he went into sex addiction recovery. I was thinking too about.
Téa Leoni.
Wait, does she have sex addiction?
No, that was who he was married to.
Oh,
I think he was married to
that's
Téa
right.
Leoni.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? No,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, no, that's and so I was thinking about that one, and then like Sandra Bullock's ex-husband Jesse James, who really turned out to be, I think, a sleazebag, but he went into sex addiction rehab when it was discovered that he'd been cheating on her. So anyway, like it's
Army Hammer. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
also said that during the
Well, you know what? Army Hammer is a great example of the dynamic that I'm talking about how people who have sexual compulsions or you could say like problematic, difficult kinks or whatever you want to call it, like particularly I feel like men, like they put themselves in situations where they can easily be extorted or lied about or what have you.
Mhm.
And so it is not easy being a man. That is true.
Know what it is? Russell Brand was in Death on the Nile with Army Hammer. Maybe they're just trying to systematically take out all the men from that horrible Kenneth Branagh Agatha Christie adaptation. Maybe that's what they're doing.
I've not seen one of those fucking movies, and it's because they all look bad. Are any of them any good? Any of those Agatha Christie, Kenneth Branagh things?
They're all unbelievably. I fell asleep yesterday in the movie. We went and saw A Haunting in Venice yesterday, which is it's the most recent one. They're all aggressively average, like in the truest sense of the term. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie's like 2 or 3 ingredients away from having something maybe really great in it. But it seemed like they played it really safe in all of them, and it just never rose to the level that it needed to be to really be a great time. Like even the cinematography in this movie, it should be fantastic. It's set in this old haunted mansion. There's this great there's some great camera work, these disorienting camera angles that they do. They advertised it as almost a horror movie. It is not. It is essentially like they're not even jump scares.
Well,
They're
I'm
like
so glad you told me that,
audio
because if
scares.
I was thinking about going to see it with like my mom or something, because it seemed like a nice horror film that mom would like. And so you're telling me it's not even scary or anything?
No, there's just a bunch of like lamely handled tense jump, like quasi jumps. They're not even jump scares. It's just the way the music is done is just it's not good, man. Like I really because I like Kenneth Branagh a lot. I think Kenneth Branagh is a fantastic actor. I think
Mhm.
he's a suitable director, but for some reason he just wasn't able to really knock it out of the park with any of these movies, which is a bummer. He did a show that I really liked called Wallander, and it breaks one of my
I've heard of it.
rules. Yeah, it's unbelievably depressing. It's like which is not my typical fare,
He's a
but like
detective, right? It's one
yeah,
of
he's
those
a, he's
dark,
a
depressed
detective, and
stuff. Yeah.
it's great. It's one of the things that I love about UK cinema, British cinema, British television is like they embrace like I love old like mid 2000s UK shows because like everything's overcast because it's
Mhm.
always overcast in the UK, and they really
Mhm.
embrace that melancholic tone. There's a
Yeah.
show out now called CB Strike, which is based on the Corman Strike detective, which is written under J.K. Rowling's pseudonym
Oh,
or
okay.
her. I'm sorry, her pen name, not
Okay.
a
I
pseudonym,
got you. Yeah.
her pen name. And it's great. Like the first 3 seasons are great because it embraces that dark, melancholic, very very stoic British like tone that I love about their old media. And Wallander did that great. But when you make these big budget movies, even if it's Agatha Christie, it's not going to really have that. It's going to be sucked into the vacuum of the typical Hollywood tone. Now, it's not super like for the modern age or anything like that. The
Mhm.
most recent one, it's just average. It's just really really average.
That's been my perception, though,
Mm.
honestly, of every Agatha Christie based,
Mm.
not just Branna's, but almost every Agatha Christie based
I've
movie or
heard the
play I've
show
ever
is
seen.
great.
Maybe it's just
I've
not
never
for
seen it.
us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard that the show is fantastic. Like everybody who I've talked, because I've talked about these movies because I thought Murder on the Orient Express was okay, but the thing that
Mhm.
when I went to see Death on the Nile, and then again now when I went to see this one, I was like, when I would go to the movie, I'm like, I remember nothing about the movie I watched before. Nothing. Like they're
Mhm.
just that forgettable. But
Mhm.
Murder on the Orient Express was fine, but I don't remember much of it. Death on the Nile was meh, but I give most things with Gal Gadot in it a passing grade because I like Gal Gadot. But at the end of the day, maybe it's also just like that's just a genre that if you're gonna do the murder mystery, it seems like it only really works these days when they do it modern,
Mhm.
like Glass Onion. That not Taika Waititi. Who made Glass Onion? Ryan Johnson made Glass Onion on Netflix, and it's really really good. At least I consider it really really good. And Knives Out. He made Knives Out and then Glass Onion,
The Knives Out guy.
which
Okay, gotcha,
yeah. So
gotcha. Okay.
like he may suck at doing Star Wars, but he's fine at doing murder mysteries. But they're done in a better tone. The most recent one, Glass Onion, was good. And when I was watching it, I'm like, this has a style to it that's all its own. And I was looking for Brana to bring that
Mhm.
to these movies, but it's almost like I don't know if he was just scared, but it
Mhm.
was like if he was just confused on how to translate such an old story to to modern day audiences because it does take place in the past. The most
Mhm.
recent one takes place in 1945, and it's got Tina Fey in it. It's which is a really interesting casting choice, but she was for the most part inoffensive in the movie. Like she wasn't like abhorrently bad trying to do a serious role,
Mhm.
but it's just I'm looking at it. I'm like, there are shades of something great here that it just never finds.
That's frustrating.
Yeah,
I feel the same way about something that I saw on demand or whatever. I don't know where it was, but it came out like a year or two ago. So The Circle
I never
with
saw it. Yeah,
Yeah, so The Circle with Tom Hanks and the annoying Emma girl, it's apparently based on a really cool, really interesting dystopic, near-term dystopic novel. And so I thought, well, I see that it's gotten kind of lousy reviews, but I'll give it a chance because I love anything that's kind of Black Mirror. It's like Black Mirror, kind of like anti-techno, dark tech or whatever. Anyway, the point is, like, I watched it, and what was so frustrating is that I could see where there was potential. There were some big ideas and some cool things they were doing. I could see the potential, and it's like, but they just they didn't bring it out, and it was a horrible ending. And you know what they did that I hated, and I'm not going to give away the ending, although you don't want to watch it all the way through. But they took the original novel had of The Circle. It had a really dark, dystopic, cynical ending where the main character, in like kind of like the end of 1984, ends up saying, like, this is great, I love it, big tech is our daddy, it's going to save us and whatever, right? And instead, I guess I'm just going to give it away because it's a terrible ending. At the end of The Circle, Emma Watson does the opposite, but she gives a TED talk at the end. And that's the big climax at the end of the film, is like she does this like happy TED talk of like, we're going to stand up against the tech companies. And it's like really like cheesy and schmaltzy and just, but it takes the really cynical, dark ending and it changes it to this like heroic tearjerker TED talk. It's really bizarre.
Wait, like the ending is we're gonna do something about it later, not we actually solve the problem. That's even more. That's even more depressing. Like that. Like maybe there's a social commentary on there about how we say we're gonna do stuff, but we never actually do anything.
So, well, there was a lot of apparently in the book, a lot of great social commentary that was subverted in the film. But anyway, I was going to ask you, was there anything that we thought about talking about that we didn't get to yet? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. I like my.
Is there anything you want to ask or say?
I don't know. Was there any other big stories this week that, or were you going to touch on Rammstein?
Oh, so this is what I wanted to ask you, because you've not been following that closely or anything, right?
No.
Okay, so for the viewers who don't know, or for your pop culture crisis people who are coming to this channel, so Rammstein, I'm going to put a picture up, but big German European band. They actually, I know that a lot of Americans aren't as familiar with them, but they even recently were selling a shitload of albums. Like they're still extremely
they're still very famous. Absolutely.
They are. And so anyway, here's the point though, not known as much in America, although lots of people know the song Du Hast. And so you can just look it up. I'm not gonna put you through my singing it right now, but you can look up the song Du Hast. But they've done a lot of other great stuff besides that, not as much known in America. Well, the point is, they even made it into the American press several months ago at the beginning of the summer because their lead singer, Till Lindemann, he was initially accused by an Irish woman who went to their pre-party and after party with him. He was accused of drugging and raping her, or drugging and assaulting her. And this became this became the headline for well, I guess for a couple of months. And it was being reported in the New York Times and various other places that this guy, that it was alleged that he had done this. Well, and eventually, after a bit of time, this woman rescinded that original accusation because it was such total BS. So she actually took it, the accuser took that off the table and then just said, well, what happened was basically is that he wanted to have sex with me and I didn't want him to, and I told him off, and that was it. And so basically it became this sort of like semi-sexual harassment thing. And what happened is then over the course of the next several months, you had these stories trickling out in the German and European media with women, anonymous women, coming forward and saying basically nothing. For instance, one woman did an interview with German media, and she said that she had had consensual sex with Lindemann, but she now realizes that because of the power imbalance between fan and star, that maybe it wasn't fully consensual. I mean, that kind of ridiculousness. So anyway, here's the point, is that finally, recently, the prosecutors in Germany and also in Lithuania, they closed these investigations that they had opened and put out statements saying it's closed, no evidence, nothing, right? And then it came out yesterday in the press that Lithuanian authorities are investigating this original accuser for defamation and slander. And so I guess this is what I wanted to say. it's really been interesting to me to look at the trajectory of the Rammstein stuff and see how something can arise like almost overnight or quickly, like within a matter of just days or a week. It can arise and it can be totally erroneous. It can be one crazed person. In this case, this woman that I think has been proven was either lying or crazy or whatever her deal is. And yet it can trigger a chain of events that become very, very serious, and the scope gets very, very big. And this is one of the things that I think is just really frightening about modern media and the virality of it, and also the fact that I don't think a lot of people care anything about the truth anymore in media.
I mean, I hesitate to wonder if they ever did. I think,
yeah, I know.
I think at the end of the day, to the cynical people who work in those industries, that what your job is to make money. You're still selling ads. There was a Bill Maher thing that he was talking about, because he was talking about coming back from the writer's strike.
Yes, he's taking a stand. Good for him.
Yeah,
I mean, doing what he believes.
He's bringing his show back without writers, and
Mhm.
basically made and they got into talking about politics and media, and he talked about how, you know, at the end of the day, like he misses the idea of news organizations working at a loss, meaning like they're not making news, they're not telling news to reinforce your beliefs, they're making news to tell you what's going on, which is, of course, it's a great idea on its head. It sounds fantastic. It's great on a bumper sticker, but that's not how the real world works. That's not how corporations work. And as long as these things are funded privately, they're going to remain this way. And the only thing worse than that would be if it was publicly funded by the government, because then it would be 1,000 times worse than it already is. But it fails the idea that, look, these companies, these news outlets are always going to choose the money and the salacious story over truth, whatever that means. But it is our job as the audience, it is our job as those taking in the news, to be as informed as we can on a subject matter, and always approach the information that you receive with an open mind, lest you find yourself walled off and stuck in a bubble where everything you hear reinforces your worldview. I've actually find that the worst outcome for something like this is where you end up like me, where you're just kind of dead inside, and none of it surprises you. None of it matters. Like, is he guilty? Sure. Is he innocent? Sure. I don't know. Is Russell Brand guilty? Not a clue. Is Danny Masterson guilty? Dunno. Like, there was a Shoe on Head had a great tweet the other day who said, she said, everything I say is a joke unless you agree with me. That's it's
right.
It's a fantastic commentary on the way I feel about the world right now. Like what do I believe about everything? I don't know, unless you agree with whatever I believe. In that case, it's just, there's so much information coming out about everything. You're reading, think about all of the articles that you have to read to cover a specific topic, who have gone through various levels of vetting, dubious sources, good sources, who knows? There's just in the Andrew Tate case has been a perfect example of this too. There's just so much information that the average person who doesn't have the time for this shit just says, I don't know. Like, when I see this stuff, I just go, I don't know, but there's funny memes. I don't care. There's memes. At the end of the day, I don't care about the news. I care about the memes. That's what I care about. And I've gotten to a point now where, like, you're on this kind of more noble quest for truth and discovering the truth. I'm on a noble quest for memes. I'm on a noble quest to laugh. And when it comes to this stuff, there's just too much output. There's too much information, and no regular person who works a 9-to-5 job, has a wife or a husband and kids, you can't expect them to be able to filter through all of that. It's because of the internet. We were better off without the internet. We were being lied to, but at least we were happy.
Well, look, if you ever read, I'm sure
the manifesto.
Yes, the Unabomber's manifesto, and no, I don't believe with what he did and the the bombings and all that. It goes without saying, right?
Yeah.
But lots of what he says in the manifesto is dead on in terms of analyzing what ails our society in relation to technology. And
he was also critical of Democrats and Republicans and conservatives and liberals alike.
Yeah. No, that's true. So, the thing is, I feel like those of us who are doing YouTube, we don't want to participate in the loud, obnoxious, sloganistic nature of it all. But I also feel like in order to be heard, we have to do that. We do that to an extent. And this is what I was trying to say earlier when I was talking about Popcorn Planet. And myself, and the way that over the past week we've been talking in kind of dramatic fashion about our perspectives on the Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher stuff, is that if we talked about things in a very quiet way, or we presented ourselves in a quiet way, like I hate having to do those really loud thumbnails. You know, the thumbnails.
Oh no,
so
I have
tacky.
one of the hardest things for me to do is to make the bombastic headlines, because I'm like, yeah, that's what happened, but it's not like if it were up to me, every thumbnail would be 9,000 words long and nobody would ever look at it. But you can't do that. Like it's just not the way it works. And I do have a problem with that. And it's kind of why I've kind of reverted to this, like, I'm here for the memes. I'm here to laugh, because the struggle back and forth, in to be fair, like what I cover tends to be, there's a lot more of just like, look, this is funny, this is silly, this is entertaining.
But you still cover, but you
we
get
do
into a
still
lot of
cover
deep
that
debates.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just it's difficult, because it's like when there's this much information, when you're constantly bombarded with different versions of a story, it's very hard for me to, as somebody who's already a self-described fence sitter, it's very hard for me to take a strong, principled stance on something where I'm like, look, what do I know? Like, I've got 9,000 people telling me this is the truth of this matter. And I think it's, I think in a lot of ways, the people who are, beware the person who is 100% sure of themselves all the time about their issues, because they're either being dishonest, or they are not looking into things enough to a point where, if you have no self-doubt about anything, now, of course, any amount, like you should never feel 110% confident about yourself all the time when you're talking about things like this that are so serious. I'm weary of the people that are that confident about stuff that doesn't involve, like, I can be that confident about one thing, and that's my own choices, my own decisions, how I've lived my life. And even then, I've made enough mistakes.
You're lucky if you can feel confident.
But I'm saying, but about what happened, not about your choices, but about what happened, right? I know exactly, but then you get these stories where it's like, yes, but this person interpreted it this way. Well, maybe it wasn't assault, but maybe it was, because he was a band leader, because he was the lead singer of a band, and I was a fan. We'll call them a fan. Like, look, it's like the world is very, very hard to pin down right now. And it's just, I have a hard time with it.
It is very hard. Truth is, and I know truth has always been hard to pin down, but it feels like it's harder now, or maybe we're just more exposed to the difficulty in it. I'm not sure, but I'm really glad that we can have all these discussions, and everybody, I think we're gonna try to make this a regular thing, a regular Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern thing. I do know that you have your own duties with Timcast and stuff like that, so sometimes it won't happen, but
some Fridays I do the show if somebody's out of town or something like that, but for the most part, Dirt Cabrio, I see a big super chat there.
Read it. Let's
read it. Oh no, you go ahead.
He's talking to you. He's talking to you.
He says, "Howdy, Colonel. Not to interrupt, but please let Brit know that the Minnesota Vikings comment was over the line, but in jest. He asked for us to say something mean. I want a clean conscience this weekend. Old man has to go to bed." Look,
I missed that.
The beauty of it is like, look, we are very lucky at Pop Culture Crisis to have very, very, like, a very, very kind chat. We have, they're very nice. Sure, they get my name wrong all the time, as you saw, as they do that on purpose. But we have a very, very nice, it's awesome. Like, there's a couple of naughty people in the chat. There's a couple of people who raise hell, but for the most part, a lot of people are there. They're having their own discussions. They're engaging with us. They're telling me I'm wrong about stuff. They're telling me this is stupid, this is great, this is bad, this is good, and we love it. It's a lot of fun, and it is one of the best parts about being able to do that. Is I love knowing that there are people that, like, when people tell me that they enjoy Like, I know it's corny and it's cheesy, but it's like when people are like, look, I really, really enjoy the show. It makes my day better. Like, I love that stuff. I love that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, what people need to understand is that even though we get criticized and, every day, typically there'll be somebody or multiple people criticizing or even kind of sniping at us or what have you, the vast majority of the
Yeah.
feedback, it actually is positive. And I think that sometimes people are actually surprised when they find out when I talk to them about like my DMs, and they'll say, "Oh, you must get death threats all the time." And I'm like, actually I've like almost never gotten a death threat. You think that I would, but it's actually not generally that bad.
I don't really get a lot of I get like some once in a while I'll get a mean one, but as long as it's clever, that doesn't really bother me. Like I said, I'll tell people, I've told this on our show all the time. I'll tell you high voltage 75 hostage Friday. Let's go. Yes,
Thank you
should.
for that.
What we do on our show, we have crisis parties at $100. Every time $100 is sent in super chats, a crisis party goes off right now. And at the end of the show, because we read all the super chats, it is a hostage crisis when they keep you here by reading all the super chats. But I will tell you what to this day, the comment, there's only one comment. Like they always say, like, if you ever worry about like yourself being cringe, just try to think back about like something cringe that a friend of yours has done. You won't remember it. Nothing will come to mind because we're self-interested people, right? Like you may remember all the cringe stuff you've ever done.
Right.
But like people are very rarely gonna remember the cringe stuff that you do because it's not their life. I'll tell you, however, there's exactly one comment that has lived rent free in my head for more than one day. Like usually, you say something really mean to me, even if you get me, I'll forget it eventually. Somebody left a comment, and this was quite a while ago. Said, "Brett seems like a really nice guy. He's just not very good at this."
What? Oh man, that's killer though. Like,
that hurt, bro. Like that one, I was like,
well, because it's also like the way that it was phrased.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you can see that the person who's dropping this really big criticism on you is phrasing it in such a way to actually not try to hurt you, they just really feel it. I know. It is so much worse than when you can feel that bite to it.
It's like saying I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Like it's awful, right? It's awful. So that one stuck with me. But for the most
maybe
part,
you were just having an off day that day.
Yeah. I mean, this was like I've grown. Like, luckily, the people that watch the show, and a lot of them in that chat have been there since very early days in the show, have stuck with it. Stuck with me and let me kind of grow and evolve over the course of the last year and 7 months or year and 8 months, however long it's been. It really was one of these things where I was just ranting about the X-Files to Tim about something. And he's like, you should do a podcast. And then said, go do. And like, we had to figure it out. Me and Mary came in 4 or 5 months later. And we had to figure it out as we went, but those people have stuck by, and I'm very grateful for all of them.
Yeah, and exactly, and you do build a kind of a community, and there are people that I even see in the chat. Like hi Robin Redbreast. There are people that I see in the chat, and of course my mods and who've been around.
Hi mods,
a long time. Yes, and thanks to AJ and to Vanessa. AJ might have had to leave, but AJ, Vanessa, and Rebel Bird, and if Laura's on, I forgot to tell Laura about this, so I don't know, but Laura B. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this out with your channel again. So here's the link to sorry, I missed high voltage and the other one. I'll get you on just one second. Let me put the link up. So this is a link for Pop Culture Crisis, Brett's show. I put it in the description under this video, and it'll be put in the comments
Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live 5 days a week.
They do a lot.
5 days a week at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We cover a little bit of this stuff, like what we're done here, stuff like we did last week with Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas. I like to get into I'll eventually rant about movies and television when I get the chance, or how awful all the Hollywood writers are behaving and how stupid. We didn't even get to talk about the insane story about how California is giving unemployment to striking workers, which is insane.
I didn't even know that, but you should talk about it on your next Pop Culture show. And I actually don't watch hardly any YouTube. I will
neither these
I'll
days.
occasionally watch some of my friends' shows, but I've been watching yours as much or more than anybody. So it's definitely not out of duty. So people should check it out. Okay, so let me get these super chats real quick, and then I
Yes.
will sign us off. Okay, we got high voltages earlier. Thank you for that. And then DRCANDC.
Oh, DC&C, yes.
Oh, okay. Someone you know.
Never clever, he says. Look, guys, you are coming out tonight. I'm loving it.
Yes, appreciate it. And we haven't worked out how we're gonna handle the splitting up the chats, but we will. So don't worry about that. It just occurred to me. I'm like, oh, we need to figure that out. But appreciate all these pop culture crisis people coming in. High voltage, $5 says Kurtz. What did you think about Godfather 3? Big mistake or underrated classic? Hey, this is a great thing to go out on. I'm gonna tell you my opinion. Then I want to hear what Brett says. Brett, you've seen Godfather 3?
Yeah. I've only seen the third one once. I've seen the other ones twice each. 2 or 3
Okay,
times
well
each,
maybe you could have an opinion here. Okay, so here's what I say. I love this comment. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to do one thing too. I'm going to also promote my PayPal. Like I tell people, PayPal takes less of your money than YouTube. So if you'd like to donate to us at this link, I can PayPal Brett half of it. But anyway, there's that too. If you like to donate, and also when you do PayPal, you make comments, I'll read them. Okay, so Godfather Part 3. I think it's a really good movie. I actually think, and I'm not alone in this, that there's actually only one significant problem with that movie. Brett, do you know what that problem is?
What is it?
It's Sofia Coppola, his daughter. Here's the thing about Godfather 3. If you don't remember, or if you haven't seen it, people out in the audience, okay? And by the way, Godfather, he's asking this question because I'm a huge Coppola fan.
Yeah.
Colonel Kurtz, Apocalypse Now. We'll talk about it some other time. But anyway, Coppola, his biggest hit ever was the Godfather movies. So the first two, everybody acknowledges as absolute classics. The third one, split reviews. And so here's the problem. I really liked the whole theme with the Pope and going to the Vatican and Sicily and all of that. I thought that was really amazing. I really enjoyed seeing the arc of Al Pacino's character to where he gets, by the end. But Sofia Coppola, she ruined every scene she was in, and I think that she's a very good director. And
you think she's a better director than?
So much.
Yeah.
If you want to, we're not going to do it here, maybe some other time, but when you get off, look up Sofia Coppola's scene, Godfather 3. I think there's a good one where she's talking to her dad, like at the breakfast table or whatever, and just see, like, she can't act. She cannot. So this is the scene. Is Al Pacino, who's supposed to be your dad. And he goes, you mean so much to me, Mary, and everything. And then this is her. Dad, I want to get close to you, Dad. Like, that's not even a parody. That's just how she acts. So everybody, when we get off here, go and look it up. And that's the problem, is that Sofia Coppola, she was a major star in this. It was her first acting role. And it was, and she was not just some side character, like, the show kind of revolves around her in a way. And so for her to, in every scene she's in, be such an absolute shambles, like, that was the problem.
Are you one of the people that believes that 2 is better than? Do you believe that 2 is the superior movie to 1, or do you believe that 2 is a superior made film, but 1 is people enjoy 2 better, but 1 is a better made movie? There's different schools of thought.
I know, and what's funny, and this is going to sound like so ridiculous and like geeky or pretentious, but I've gone through periods in my life where my opinion on that has changed.
Yeah.
and so actually, I think that
I have that with
Brando
movie trilogies all the time.
The fact that Brando, this is the problem, is that in the first one, we have Brando, who's amazing. And then in the second one, we have the introduction of very young Robert De Niro. And so, like, those are just such amazing performances. Al Pacino is amazing in both of them. So I don't know. I think if someone asked me which one, if I could only watch one, which do you want to watch? And I would still say the first one. But the second one's amazing. And again, I like the third one. I think it gets into some really deep stuff. What did you think of the third one?
I've saw it once, long time ago. The only ones I watched multiple times were 1 and 2, and that was because I had a friend who just loved them, right? Mm-hmm. And that wasn't really. I didn't really learn to like love that genre until years later. Like I fell into like a lot of like the. Whether it's gangster films, things like that. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time is American Gangster.
Oh, I love that. I've taught that in college before. We should talk about that one day. Just like talk about that.
But I've had trilogies of movies where my opinion on which is the best in the franchise has changed over time. One being like the Scream franchise, which was my first introduction to like slasher films when I was about, I think the first one came out in 95, so I was about 9 years old. Shouldn't have been watching it anyways. Not like I probably saw it like when it came out on home video, right? So I was like 10 or 11, right? And I loved the sequel because I didn't see them till years later. I loved 2, even though everybody hates 2, but I actually really, really like it. But then I didn't really appreciate how inventive the first one was, how groundbreaking the meta humor in the first one was until years later when I understand the tropes that they were satirizing in the film. So I didn't have that appreciation until I was able to be informed enough on the genre. I only liked it because I just thought it was a clever movie with performers that I really liked. I am still mad that they killed off Jamie Kennedy in that series.
He was definitely the funniest part.
Yeah,
for sure.
he's the best part of the films.
But
like I have a different opinion on all of them depending on the day of the week, and I do that with a lot of my hottest take that I always tell is that the Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight as it's a better comic book movie. But that's just my personal opinion.
I think Batman Begins is a very strong film, and I don't necessarily think that The Dark Knight's a lot better. But anyway,
I love that film, but as somebody who loves the visual style of the first one, which they kind of abandoned for a more traditional look for the second and third one, because it's supposed to evoke a standard crime thriller as opposed to a comic book movie. I appreciate the first one better, but we should talk about American Gangster sometime. I love that movie.
We could probably even, if our lives depended on it, recite it, because I've seen it many times. You probably have too. And like, seriously, I taught a course in college on gangster films. It was one of those.
That's awesome.
It was one of those courses that when people talk about the failure of higher education.
Yeah. If I had to choose between that and a Taylor Swift course, I'm taking the course on gangster films.
Oh man. But I like to sneak in a lot of philosophy and like stuff through even some economics through the back door with that. We talked about
there is a lot of
in there. Yeah.
There's strong unregulated free market vibes in that movie because of what he had to do to go and get the heroin.
Yes, yeah. I've got to go to the source. Go to the source.
He had to go all the way to Vietnam to get the heroin, and that's I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
It's funny too because the cast is enormous, but Denzel Washington is my favorite actor of all time, by far. By far, Denzel Washington is my favorite actor of all time. And seeing him in that movie and seeing Russell Crowe, who's such an established and talented actor, get just kind of outshone by Denzel, who embraces that role. And like Idris Elba is like a bit player for like 10 minutes in this movie. And one of the things I love about a movie like that is when you get a film of that caliber, when you get a Ridley Scott, right? And you get somebody who it was Ridley Scott, right? I'm not misremembering that. Yeah. Okay. So I've been watching a lot of Tony Scott movies lately. I was watching Man on Fire and Deja Vu, which are both Tony Scott movies. And you get a Ridley Scott who can get all of these actors in a room to work together, just A-list stars across the board, and you get like a bit role from Idris Elba for that great scene when he takes him out in the middle of on the streets in Harlem.
Right.
And it's just fantastic. And the actress who played his wife, who like never acted again, she did like one thing after that and then never did any other roles.
It's Edward James Olmos' his wife. We could probably
Is it actually
geek over this. Yeah. I gotta go to bed though. I'm starting to get tired. We're getting up early tomorrow, but I think we know some of what we can talk about next week. No, I love that movie, and it'll be cool to talk about that. Okay, everybody. So check out the links are going to be below and everything, but check out Pop Culture Crisis, his show. Check out Brett online. He's on all the places and whatever. And then, and also my links are below if you would like to leave a tip, and Patreon, all that stuff. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, and we are.